Sega introduces America's Most Wanted, Wonder Boy 3. Wanted for killing monsters and demons in his quest to lift the dragon's curse. Wanted for its constantly changing adventure experience. California Games. Wanted for its fun in the sun and surf. Wanted because up to 8 friends can compete in great outdoor summer sports. Wonder Boy 3. California Games. America's Most Wanted. From Sega.
Hello everyone, this is Aegon of Astora, and this is Wonder Boy 3, The Dragon's Trap. And no, though I have some nostalgic memories of California Games, but not the Master System version, the Atari Lynx version, this series is going to be all about Wonder Boy 3, the first video game to really capture my imagination. Known as Monster World 2 in Japan, Wonder Boy 3 begins in the final dungeon from its predecessor, Wonder Boy in Monsterland. And actually, you know what? That's probably where we should start. Originally released in arcades in 1987, Wonder Boy Monsterland was ported to the Sega Master System as Wonder Boy in Monsterland in 1988. Much like the original Wonder Boy, which I can't show you here because I don't own it, the Master System port of Wonder Boy in Monsterland retains many of the coin-munching mechanics of its arcade counterpart. While, to be sure, there's not as much of an impetus to rush through the game as quickly as possible as there was in the first Wonder Boy in Monsterland still discourages the player from stopping to smell the roses. But whereas the original Wonder Boy centered around the collection of fruit to temporarily slow the perpetual depletion of the player's HP, Wonder Boy in Monsterland features an hourglass at the top of the screen which, when depleted, only results in the loss of one of the player's hearts. This can, of course, be offset, to a degree, by collecting the hourglasses found throughout the game, but these are somewhat rare and don't come anywhere close to allowing the player to substantially slow down the pace of the game. You might wonder, like I did when originally revisiting this game about a year ago, why they didn't scrap this mechanic altogether when porting the game to a home console like the Sega Master System. That is, on a home console, there's no need for the type of arcade game mechanics designed to ensure that players are constantly feeding quarters into the arcade cabinet. But when you consider the broader context surrounding the 1988 release of this arcade port, this makes a fair bit of sense. That is, in the late 1980s, Sega's business and marketing strategies centered almost entirely around its arcade business. Accordingly, Sega's marketing strategy for first-party games usually centered around the ability of the Master System, and for a time the Genesis/Mega Drive, to replicate the arcade experience in the home. And it wasn't really until the meteoric rise of Sonic the Hedgehog that this began to slowly change. But that's a story for another time. In any event, I think it is this tension between framing this as an arcade game on the one hand and as an action RPG platformer on the other that kept Wonder Boy in Monsterland from becoming a masterpiece like its successor. Equally, I didn't actually plan on talking about this game for any longer than something like 30 seconds, but in the process of capturing footage of the game to fill that 30 seconds, I simply couldn't stop playing it. So while this is a game that somewhat pales in comparison to its successor, and though I still think it deserves a longer look, we only really have the time for a brief overview right now. With all that said, the story of Wonder Boy in Monsterland is pretty simple. The player character is told that the country's fate depends on them, and that our mission is to destroy the vicious dragon and restore peace. Then we're given a sword and a revival potion and sent on our way. Enemies, NPC shops, and coins are strewn throughout the game's 12 levels, and it's in the player's best interest to collect as many of these coins as possible, in order so that they can acquire and upgrade swords, shields, armor, and boots. This might seem somewhat shallow and inconsequential by comparison to the progression we'll soon see in Wonder Boy 3, but the game actually engenders an enormous sense of accomplishment when, say, you find that after upgrading your boots, you can now successfully complete a jump that was simply impossible earlier. On the other hand, gold in this game is incredibly scarce, and often hidden in places you probably wouldn't think to check. And if, like me, you wanted to try completing the game blind before referring to a walkthrough, you might have a really hard time in the later levels where you should really have top tier gear, but gear that you simply couldn't afford because you didn't know where all the hidden gold was in a given level. This wouldn't be a problem if you could farm coin from enemies, but enemies will only drop coins the first time you kill them. After they respawn, they will only drop items that increase your score. So again, the game suffers because of the tension generated by the inclusion of coin-munching arcade game mechanics. Nevertheless, I pressed on, intent not only on showing you what the last level of this game looks like, in comparison to its recreation in Wonder Boy 3, I was also intent on beating this game because, to be honest, I've never beaten it. Granted, I was something like 4 or 5 years old when I last played this game, and though I do recall one of my older siblings beating this game once or twice, it was not without some really frustrating and patience-trying moments, but more on that in a minute. After 4 or 5 playthrough attempts, because there are no lives or continues in this game, a strange double standard when it comes to the retention of arcade mechanics, I finally made it to the final level, and here's what it looks and sounds like. This really is a fitting final level for the 8-bit era of video games, in that it is punishingly hard and incredibly difficult to do without some sort of guide or perhaps a handmade map of the area. Put simply, if you go the wrong way, you end up back at the start of the level. Even more confusingly, for someone who spent most of his time playing Wonder Boy 3, the path through this labyrinthian dungeon is actually different here. Nevertheless, I again pressed on, that is until I happened upon the tower climb. This is, without a doubt, the part of the game I remember most vividly, not because it was super awesome, engaging, or exciting, but because it was so incredibly difficult to execute properly. There's something about the jumping mechanics that makes them horribly unsuited for this task. It's exceedingly difficult to string together enough successful jumps to make it all the way to the top of this tower. Worse still, if you fall, you are sent something like 5 or 6 screens away, forcing you to make run back, after run back, after run back, in order to try again. Then, in the midst of one of these runbacks, it hit me. Maybe I needed the Boots of Legend in order to complete this segment. I had, after all, made it to the last level with some pretty shoddy equipment, and Wonder Boy 3 is designed in such a way that you cannot complete certain parts of the game without having obtained certain items first. So I started the game all over again, but this time with the help of Skeleton Crusader's incredibly thorough video walkthrough, a link to which you'll find in the video description below, and eventually made my way back to the final level, but this time with the sword, shield, armor, and Boots of Legend, the best set of equipment in the game. And this equipment made a real difference throughout the game. Wonder Boy really does feel better to control when you have better gear, so I figured the tower climb wouldn't be an issue this time around. I was wrong. Even with the legendary boots, I fell again, and again, and again, and again. What the fuck? Now, I am playing on a Retron 5, so input lag is definitely an issue. But remember when I said this was the part of the game I remembered most vividly? Well, yeah, that's because this was where most playthroughs of the game ended when I was younger. Even my eldest brother, who at the time I felt was the most skilled gamer in the world, would always struggle at this part. And because there's not even a password save option in this game like there is in Wonder Boy 3, we would often arrive at this part of the game, struggle with it, and then decided to do something else after it simply became too frustrating to continue. Perhaps this is another remnant of the game's arcade origins, forcing players to be absolutely perfect in order to proceed to the final boss, and thus ensuring that they continue to feed quarters into the machine, but I really don't know. All I know is that I tried to successfully complete this segment for almost an hour, and then actually had to put a stop to it because my thumbs were really beginning to hurt. So even though it really does deserve a more in-depth look, this is where we're going to be leaving Wonder Boy and Monsterland for now, because I don't really feel like falling from these platforms over and over and over again any longer. Thank you for bearing with me while I got all that stuff off of my chest, as well as, I think, established the context for this game. In particular, in terms of the evolution of Westone or West One Entertainment. I don't know how to pronounce it, but Westone Entertainment. And yeah, because Wonder Boy 2 itself is a big departure from Wonder Boy 1, and then Wonder Boy 3 even more from 2. And the central difference between these two games, Wonder Boy 3 versus Wonder Boy 2, is that Wonder Boy 3 wasn't originally an arcade game. And yeah, the consequences of that we'll discuss in much greater detail as we proceed. But I'm just rambling now. And it took me all day to do a non-rambly sort of summary of my thoughts on Wonder Boy 2, so we're just going to get started now. So that was the demo mode, and it says press start button, and even though we're playing on a 6-button Genesis controller on a Retron 5, which is something I'll explain a little bit more later on, yeah, on the Master System controller there's only 2 buttons, button 1, button 2. Button 1 is the start button. And you have an option, unlike in Wonder Boy 2, in Wonder Boy 3, you can use a password save to continue. We're not going to select it because we'd have to reset the game or enter a correct password. But what we are going to do is we're going to go to New Game. But actually first, the building we're looking at here is the same building from the final level of Wonder Boy 2. The same building with that gosh darn tower climb. And yeah, thankfully there is no tower climb in this game. They removed it in this game, but I still think it's pretty cool that same place, that you end Wonder Boy 2 and then you start Wonder Boy 3 exactly where you left off, but with some differences which we'll discuss as we get into it. But let's get started. Before you is the monster world. Overcoming various hardships, you have at last entered into the monster's castle. Your target is the dreaded dragon's room, but unbeknownst to you is the fact that the dragon has the power to invoke curses on his enemies. Soundtrack, like, because we're playing on the Retron 5, we could have FM music on, which is, I think, an improvement in some places, and maybe I will enable the FM sound for one of these episodes so that those of you watching can weigh in on this, because I much prefer in Wonder Boy 3 the PSG soundtrack, which you're hearing right now. I much prefer that to the FM soundtrack, which was available if you owned the Japanese Sega Mark III, which was sort of the predecessor to the Master System, but not really. We'll talk about that later, but you could purchase an FM attachment, which would give you FM sound for your games, if the games had them available. And Wonder Boy 3, even though in the US, the Master System, and in Europe and South America, the Master System didn't have FM sound, but games like Wonder Boy 3 still have it in the ROM. There's the FM music and the PSG soundtrack. So all of this is to say that I grew up with the PSG soundtrack and not the FM. So even though I think the PSG is better, it might just be nostalgia, and the association of the song with all these good times playing this game. And not just, that it's objectively better. So we're going to start with the PSG soundtrack for now, but then I'll switch in one of the upcoming episodes to the FM soundtrack, and yeah, you can let me know which of the two you prefer. But for now... Okay, so this is one of the main benefits of using the Retron 5. Because of course I have no way of recording my Master System, so that's why we're playing on the Retron 5, but also because, yeah, it makes it very easy. It upscales to 720p, and you can remap buttons, and I created a button configuration specifically for this. You'd think I would have named it something descriptive instead of E, but yes, that's it. And we also have turbo buttons set up too, in case we need those, because my thumb has been killing me since trying to do the tower climb. It is right now, by the way, 3 in the morning in local time on Saturday, December 25th, so Soulsmas. I hope you're all having a wonderful Christmas if you celebrate it. But yeah, okay, so we've switched around the jumping and the attack buttons because, yeah, having it the other way around is not good. And as you can see, we are in the same level. We're in the same place that we were in Wonder Boy 2 when we were in the final dungeon. But one of the things I mentioned is that there are differences between the way the dungeon is laid out, the labyrinth, the maze of it is laid out in this game versus Wonder Boy 2. In Wonder Boy 2, when you come to a fork in the road like this, where you can either go up or down, you have to go down. So if you go down here, oh, it's not cooperating. Okay, if you go down here, it takes you right back to the start. So if you just came from playing Wonder Boy 2, and yeah, you start playing this, you're just like, what the heck? Or if you did it the other way around, like me, where you play Wonder Boy 3 for the most part, and then you go back to play Wonder Boy 2, and you're like, that's not right. So yeah, so you have to go to the top here in order to proceed. None of the enemies here drop gold. I should also show you the inventory screen, or the status screen. So we are, in the top left, you can see our form is human, so we're human. The top right, you can see our attack power, defense power, and charm points, or attack points, defense points. So we have, basically we're maxed on everything, because again, this is a prologue to the actual game, and the idea is that we are at the last dungeon to fight the Mecca Dragon, which was the purpose of Wonder Boy 2, and we've fought our way there and we're all good. And so we have full hearts, full attack and defense points, our charms through the roof, and we have a revival potion or medicine in this game, which is considerably less powerful than it is in Wonder Boy 2, but we'll talk about that as well. We also have all of the legendary equipment, which in Wonder Boy 2 is called, there's the armor, the boots, and there's no boots in this game, it's just armor, shield, and weapons. But in Wonder Boy 2 there's also boots, and they are all blank of legend, whereas in this game it's just legendary. So yeah, we have all the best stuff right now, and they basically make it so that it's impossible for you to lose in this part. So it's like the tutorial area. So again, here I'll show you that if we continue going this way, we're back at the start again. So so yeah, so that's the basic idea behind this level as it was in Wonder Boy 2 and as it appears here as well, except the specific path is different. Oh, that guy dropped a fireball. So yeah, so there are also magic weapons. Oops, didn't mean to do that, which you have to actually equip. And thankfully, I am using, again, a Retron 5, so I have the pause button equipped right on my controller. But were I playing the actual Master System, I would have to ensure that I was really close to the console, because the pause button was actually on the console as opposed to on the controller itself. So yeah, so where we really want to go here is down. And when we find ourselves in a similar situation, oh no! When we find ourselves in a similar situation in Wonder Boy 2, we are actually supposed to go the opposite way. So we just sent ourselves back. We need to go left here, whereas in Wonder Boy 2 we have to go right. So again, it's really confusing, but these enemies are called Wandering Bones. And so yeah, we have enemy names for all the enemies. We're not going to look at all of them today, but as we go through this playthrough, we will look at these enemies. And these guys are a pain, because yeah, I'll get into it later. So you notice there's a big change in scenery, and we can't actually go back here. We're now in sort of the Mecca Dragon's private quarters, I guess. And so this is, once again, the same as it was in Wonder Boy 2. Like, the shift in tone from, like, with the candles on the wall and stuff, and then all of a sudden you're in this very futuristic-looking place, although with the door that's not especially futuristic. But in Wonder Boy 2, there were actually two bosses. There's a dragon, and then I think it morphs into Mecca Dragon, but again, I can't confirm that because I couldn't get past the tower climb. But after you defeat the final boss in Wonder Boy 2, I know that the game does end, and everything seems to be good. So this game basically revises that. This game goes, you know, retroactively changes that, and the way in which it does that you'll see in just a second. So yeah, this is the first boss fight. Not really, because yeah, it's like a tutorial, but nevertheless. And the key, of course, is to just ensure that you understand the attack pattern, you behave accordingly, and that you don't get hit by the Ritz crackers that the Mecca Dragon spits out. Because when I was a kid, yeah, every single time I fought this boss, I always thought they looked like Ritz crackers, and I am doing terribly here. Oh my gosh. Again, input lag will be an issue in this playthrough, I think. But if I play well, it shouldn't be. So, you want to get as much gold as you can before the flame touches you. That jump, though. Because much like in Wonder Boy 2, gold is very important in this game. So, look at the status screen and we can see that we are now Lizard Man. That our attack points, our defense points, and our charm points all fell. So each form, we'll talk about charm points a bit later on, but each form has sort of a base level of charm. And whereas Human is, you know, very charming in his nice legendary armor and stuff, a Lizard Man is apparently not quite as charming, so... So yeah, so they have a lower base charm. We still have all the legendary stuff for now, but yeah. And you see that the castle is pretty much getting set to implode. And I always thought that that was a really cool detail, especially looking back on it, because even though the Master System, and that guy will always drop a big heart if you need the health. Even though, yeah, because again, they want to make sure that you make your way through this, but yeah, even though the Master System was technically superior to... Oh, I meant to shoot instead of jump there. Even though the Master System was technically superior to the NES. Where'd that guy go? They still, you know, didn't have a lot to work with. So yeah, so the guy with the key will always spawn next to the door with the lock on it, which is curious, but there are two different colored locks in this game. This is a red one, which I think means that you can only use the key on it once and it locks behind you, basically. And the green ones, you use a key on it once and you don't need to use another one. So you're gonna get hit a lot in this part, pretty much no matter what you do, so I don't get too bothered by getting hit here. Because if it wasn't already obvious, we're gonna lose all these hearts anyway. music. Tell me in the comments if I'm crazy for thinking that this music is just amazing. Okay, so we got a couple new enemies coming up. These are just skeleton, but in the credits of the game, they're called Skeleton. Skeleton and Master Skeleton. And the Master Skeleton is, of course, the one with the hat, the fancy hat, and who will just jump around us if we get him in the right position. Come on, jump, jump. There you go, yes. He just goes bonkers for some reason, I don't know why. And yeah, no one drops anything here, so... So yeah, there's nobody. We might as well get out of here because the sky doing that doesn't look good. And now, proceed with your adventurous undertaking. Wonder Boy 3: The Dragon's Trap. So as you can see, we now only have 1 heart. We still only have 41 gold. We only have 3 attack points, 6 defense points, and 3 charm points. And we have the ivory sword, the ivory shield, and the ivory armor. So the absolute worst armor in the game. Or the worst equipment in the game, I should say. Charm stones increase your charm. I might cheat and use a password to add charm stones because much like Wonder Boy 2, this game, you need money and you need things like charm stones. But this game allows you to farm. I don't want to farm on camera. If I do wind up farming, it'll be off camera, but I might also just cheat the items into the game using a password. Because, you know, my time is limited and I spent way too much of it playing Wonder Boy 2 and then making the first part of this video, with just that, you know, just ranting about it for 10 minutes. So yeah, let me start by just giving you a tour of Monster Town. This is Monster Town. And this is basically our hub world. Our hub area, it's like our Firelink. This is actually the player character's home. We learn that in the ending of the game, but there's no way of entering it right now because it appears that the residents of Monster Town have put bricks over it. Because yeah, the door is actually right here, but it's not there. So until we take care of business, they don't let us use our home. This is the hospital. I always thought that it looked like she was, instead of holding a clipboard, she was holding a bag of bread. But yeah, you know, again, you gotta work with what you have, especially in 8-bit era. So, it's pretty cheap right now, only 5 gold, because we only have 1 heart, but there's no point in us using it. So this one says, next please, which makes sense, but when we go to one of the other shops, so we go to this shop over here, it says, shopping please. And I don't know what they mean by that. Like, I think... Because, yeah, it's fun. When you consider, you know, we take for granted today how, you know, we bicker and, you know, go into the minutia of translations and stuff in Dark Souls and how it's problematic trying to translate things, and back then it was even worse. Like, things like this. Shopping, please. As best as I can tell, it means something like no loitering, perhaps? But I haven't the slightest clue, so we can buy the mithril armor and the mithril shield here. We don't have enough for the shield, so I think we're probably just going to go without it for now. But yeah. And yeah, I should also point out, let's go back to the shop. And if the control looks really bad, it's probably just because my thumbs hurt from the tower climb. It's not actually that bad. But in the later Game Gear port of the game, and then the TurboGrafx 16 port, which was called Dragon's Curse, this smoking pig was removed. So yeah, the Master System is the only version that has the smoking pig. And this was, of course, the original version, so I guess we might as well buy the Mithril Shield. We're not really going to be spending our money on anything else right now. And so all the doors with windows in them are usually shops, or in this case, they give you a password. So this is something I talked about in the context of my Dark Souls casual playthrough, is the fact that, you know, if I had a password from back when I was a kid playing this game, I could continue right where I left off. Maybe not exactly, because, you know, there's some things that change, like it rounds off values, because it, you know, couldn't possibly store all that data in a password. But, you know, if you were to go play Dark Souls 20, 30 years from now, when the servers are offline, it's going to be a completely different game, whereas this game is still basically exactly the same. So, we need to get into this tower, but we don't have a key. If you look in our inventory, you see, yeah, 0 keys. So the first thing we need to do is we're going to go get a key. And you'll notice there's different style blocks here. So there are these checker style blocks above my head, and then to our left there are these gold ones. Those blocks can be interacted with in different ways at different points in the game. And all the things that we're seeing, so like that pool of water, for example, we'll be able to go there. We'll be able to go over this pile of blocks here. And if we go over to the other side, over near the player's home, it's fun using the turbo button to just bunny hop. We'll see more blocks here that we can traverse later in the game. So yeah, so when you're using the Retron 5, you might as well take advantage of certain things. And yes, when attempting the tower climb, I was using save states because I just couldn't be bothered with the runbacks after the first few I did. It was just so frustrating. So yeah, so we need to go... Yeah, this spring is annoying. We need to get a key. But first, so there are a bunch of secret doors. I don't remember where all of them are, but I do remember where many of them are. So there's one here, I think. And you can see we can't see what items these are because we don't have enough charm. So that's the importance of charm points in the game. I think it's meant to ensure that you're not somehow able to get late game gear early in the game, but of course there are ways around that. Our first heart. So let's get out of here. I guess technically our second heart, but it's like our first Estus shard, basically. I always like the music here. But again, you guys can let me know if it's awful and that's just pure nostalgia, but I feel like it has such a cheerful, optimistic vibe. Which is really conflicts with what happened before we arrived here, but whatever. Again, more blocks we'll be able to interact with later. And here you can see the chest we just opened. There won't be anything in it if we go there. Up there's another place we'll be able to go later. As with up there. love the music in this game so much. So very much. So yeah, so I hope you all don't mind if I do that. And every now and then I will, yeah, just whenever we enter a new area with new music, I'll stop and let the music play for a second so that you can hear it. If we fall in the water down there, which we will do eventually, we don't die. We actually go to a place under the water. So yeah, it's basically an open world. That was bad. It's basically an open world, and you can go anywhere that you have access to. So there isn't a whole lot of sequence breaking that you can do. In the overall, it is pretty linear, but you can go about doing things in different ways that makes it very interesting and certainly increases the replayability. Since I rebought this game a year and a half ago, I'd say probably played through it 4 times, something like that. If you take out farming and stuff, you can probably beat this game in 2 or 3 hours. Maybe not that short. Yeah, probably 3 or 4 hours, if you're perfect. And that's very difficult to do. So were we to fall in the water there, we would have to swim through a whole underwater gauntlet, which isn't the best situation to be in, given our current character, and, you know, how underpowered we are. Oh, we didn't equip our... Oh, silly me. We didn't equip our new shield, so that increases our defense points to 15, so... Probably should have done that. And yeah, it's weird with Lizard Man, because even though he only breathes fire, it's still swords that he equips, so I don't really know how that works, but as you can see, we can block enemy projectiles with it, though, which is very useful. But in all the other forms, we have an actual shield that we hold out in front of us, whereas in Lizardman's form, it just sort of, you know, you have to imagine that it's there, I guess. You can see up in the top right corner, it actually tells us how much gold we get for each kill, or each time we pick up a coin or a bag. And so that's tornado magic. Keep bringing up the Retron 5 menu by accident. What do you mean to bring up this one? And so what we really need for this area coming up is an arrow. But we don't have any. And you'll see why in a minute. And so there's an arrow. Beautiful. So based on the color of the enemy, they are either stronger or weaker. So the red are the weakest, the green are the second strongest, and the blue are the strongest. So that's why these ones are taking a few hits, whereas the early ones did not. Okay, so we need to equip our arrow, and we only have one of them, so we have to make this count. Because the enemy that's coming up is the worst, and it's called Wandering Smog? Wandering Smog, I think? Either way, Smog something or other, and it's the worst. So we want to try and kill this crab before we aggro the Smog, but there he is, okay. He thinks he's so cool with his sunglasses. No, I missed! Dagnabbit, okay. So this one's not so bad, because the fireballs just sort of fall through the floor, but later on we come across several of them that the fire things they drop actually follow you, so those ones are not pleasant to fight against. Whereas this guy's not too bad, as long as... Ah, it's not good. I wonder what the turbo flame looks like. That's actually not very good. So we see another block up there, something we'll be able to interact with later, and a shop. Again, with stuff that we can't actually see, because we don't have enough charm. I can't remember what these two things are, but I know it's something for later in the game, so we'll be back here later. That's where we came in, and this is what we're looking for. I always love that. And the music that's playing right now, and I know basically the whole soundtrack, so the music that's playing right now is called It's a Treasure Box. which is quite apt. Yeah, this game, it has so much charm, I feel, and it annoys me when people talk about the Master System, and they talk about Alex Kidd, but they don't talk about Wonder Boy 3. And I understand for many of the reasons for that. Like, this game was released in 1989, which was several years after the Master System's initial release. And yeah, very late in the console's life when everyone was switching over to the Genesis / Mega Drive. And so it kind of fell, kind of flew under the radar, but yeah. So we got what we came for, which is the key, and there's other stuff we can do here, but not right now, so we're going to return to Monster Town, which is, again, the hub world. And all the enemies do respawn, either when you go to the next screen, or when you, go into a room and then come out again. So, again, we don't have an arrow. Oh my gosh, we're running low on health, so we're just going to run by these guys. Oh no! I forgot we had medicine. That was very ill-advised. Okay. Okay, so you see it's a red enemy, which means it's a little bit weaker. But we can't really afford to even get hit by it once, so we're going to try using our magic. Yes! Beautiful. So yeah, all the magic works well for different things. Tornado is very good for getting enemies that are under you, and we also can't afford to fall in the water right now, because that would be really bad news. I don't think we'd make it out. Oh no! Speak of the devil. Oh, that's ridiculous. Heart. Thank you. Okay, we might as well explore down here. Oh, I hate these guys. I don't remember what any of these enemies are called, but we will go over enemy names soon. Because yeah, they're all in the instruction manual. I don't need a guide for it. The instruction manual actually has all the enemy names in it. Remember when instruction manuals were a thing? I used to love instruction manuals. Especially when, you'd buy a new game. And on the ride home, yeah, you'd just read through the instruction manual. Okay, I don't know why I didn't remember that. We should have come down here to begin with, actually, to power ourselves up a little bit. Oh well. Lesson learned. But now, yeah, again, all the enemies respawn. But we can hope for some hearts, and if not, yeah, some more gold doesn't hurt. 179. We'll be able to buy the mithril armor. So we only got the shield so far. This song here is called Sidecrawler's Dance. And I'll explain the reason for that once we're back above ground. If we make it. Well, either way, we'll be back above ground if we die or otherwise, but... I always thought they looked so dumb, those fish. But these guys look scary. Oh, that hurts. Point blank. I think it does more damage if you're closer, but I'm not sure about that. Okay. Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Crab. It's nice being able to duck. Because yeah, if you couldn't duck, this form would be the absolute worst. So, I mentioned there was a name for this song. It's called Sidecrawler's Dance. This enemy right here is the Sidecrawler, and presumably, that's the Sidecrawler's Dance it's doing right now. I thought that was kind of neat when I learned what the name of the song was. Sorry, Mr. Sidecrawler, thank you for showing us the dance. The dance of your people. The tornado is pretty good. So yeah, if you use a password save, it does respawn all of the chests that don't have things like big hearts in them. So you can get chests again, but there's no guarantee you're going to have the same amount of money. And, you know, it will round down things like things you're carrying, like your medicines and your magic weapons and things like that. Oh, we got a boomerang. I didn't even notice that. So that's my favorite magic weapon. And, actually, we're not going to equip it because you can lose it. And later you can actually do 2 at once, which we'll need for the penultimate dungeon, which is by far my worst. So there's our warp back to Monster Town. So my recording's at 40 minutes. I think we're going to make an attempt at the first dungeon. But first let's buy the mithril armor. So shout out to Nicole Neil Lucky Dubois, who encouraged me to do this playthrough, because this is something that I've wanted to do pretty much since I started this channel, because, you know, I love this game so much and never really talked about it, other than just mentioning it all the time. So yeah, I hope that you guys enjoy this, even though it's a bit of a change from the norm. So you hear that noise that it makes when we actually go through the door of the key. There is a secret door here, but I think it only unlocks under very specific conditions. So again, we can see more blocks, checker blocks that we'll be able to interact with later, but not right now. There's also stuff in the sky over there. There's a secret door here that, again, only unlocks under certain conditions. And yeah, really nowhere else to go. I love that song. Okay. It's so good. Okay, but first here, we have a decision to make. We can go left or we can go right. And this is something that, you know, we very much, or at least I very much take for granted today. But back then, even though, again, this was released late into the 8-bit life cycle in 1989, but this was still a pretty big thing. Because again, in Wonder Boy 2, first of all, in Wonder Boy 2, we couldn't just stand here and do nothing. We'd be losing health constantly. But in Wonder Boy 2, you're constantly going to the right. And there were times within certain levels where, yes, you'd go left and then right again. But, you know, it was always right. And all these side-scrolling games, you're always just going right. And here you get to this spot and you're just like, what? You can go left or right? And your inclination, or at least mine, was always to go right. Because, you know, it's the way most games... Oh, crud. It's the way most games did it. Again, this guy's, thing doesn't hit us, thankfully. We're gonna save our arrow because we do need it for later. Because there's a spot where the fireball... Oh, there's another arrow. The beautiful thing about the boomerang is that you can also use the boomerang to pick up items, which is very helpful. So you can go all the way to the right here. And remember earlier when I said that the enemies are color-coded red, easy, green, medium, blue, hard? Yeah, this guy will destroy us. It would take something like 100, maybe not 100, but many, 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 many hits of our little fireball to kill this thing. So yes, you can go this way, but it is basically suicide. But again, you know, another place where there's some replayability here, where, you know, you could potentially do a challenge run where, yeah, you try to sequence break and go that way with Lizardman instead of who you're supposed to go there with, and that is, well, I won't spoil it for now, but another character. So again, it's not a big deal that these guys have respawned, because we can always use more coins or more magic weapons. Oh, another. Okay. So now that we got 3 of them, no need to be conservative. Oh, there's a bag of gold too. 23. Beautiful. Another arrow. Use an arrow, get an arrow. And another one. Beautiful. So yeah, this game was also like the first game where I was really exposed to RNG and, you know, the need to farm and things like that. And such that when, you know, I later play games like Dark Souls and earlier Final Fantasy VII, farming wasn't really, you know, I didn't really have a problem with it. Like, obviously something I preferred not to do, but I always knew if you're not doing well, there's, you know, you can probably improve your standing in some way, shape, or form to help you do better. And this is, I think, the earliest game that taught me that. Do something to improve your character and then return to try again, which unfortunately didn't work in the case of Wonder Boy 2, but yeah. Okay, so these enemies are not especially fun to deal with, but if you have tornadoes, they're not so bad. But we should probably try to save our tornadoes for the higher powered ones, because this one is just... oh, crud. Oh, that was terrible. We almost got destroyed by that side crawler there too. So since we have no medicine, if we die, we go all the way back to Monsterland. We lose all of our excuse me, we lose all of our power-ups as well. So no reason not to use our boomerang now, since we're almost dead, as well as our tornadoes. Oh no! Beautiful. So yeah, so you can block their projectiles, but you gotta really be paying attention. Oh, there's another arrow. Gosh darn it. And of course we didn't get the medicine. So if your heart doesn't land on the medicine, then your HP doesn't even refill in full. And again, you lose all of your magic weapons. So anything on the right side, I don't think you lose keys, but I could be wrong about that. Oh, that sucks. And so you could go to the hospital. How much is it? It's 20 gold now for 1 heart. I don't know if that's worth it, but I don't want to die again, so we're going to use it anyway. Because, yeah, we do want to save up money. And thankfully, yeah, that's a green lock, we only need to unlock it once. It's unlocked, we can just go right back. Medicines are pretty rare as well. You can see at the top of the screen it says that we have 0. But we can hold up to a maximum of 3. So this time, I'm going to do all this right. Or I'm going to try anyway. Oh, I was going to equip my arrow. I forgot that, yeah, we don't have an arrow. Because, yeah, we lost it when we die. So, you know, it's not as punishing as a game like Dark Souls, of course, where, you know, the gold is a currency that you never lose. In Wonder Boy 2, there were enemies who stole your gold, which was extremely annoying. Because again, it's a game that is really centered around the need to buy the most expensive equipment, but it provides only so many opportunities for you to earn gold. Whereas Wonder Boy 3 doesn't have that problem because there's no time constraints. It's an open world as well, and you can just, you know, you can farm as much or as little as you want. You have to do a little bit of farming if you want to get the high-end gear, but I don't think it's as necessary in this game as it was in Wonder Boy 2. So yeah, so with those guys, we're just going to wait for their high arcing shot, and then go through. And it's very clever the way they lay out the enemies in this game, because the red ones, the lower powered ones, never have all of the capabilities that the higher powered ones do. But the game always introduces you to the red variety first, so that you can get a sense for what the enemy is like and what kind of things it does. And then it's not until later on when you come into contact with the higher powered ones, so like the green one here, for example. I think he shoots a little bit faster, so let's see. Oh yeah, it's way faster. I don't remember what those enemies are called. I'm gonna have to start looking up enemy names. Oh, see, and we gotta use 2 tornadoes in this one. Oh, bag of gold, nice. And with each passing screen, so this isn't even the dungeon that we're going to. So each dungeon has sort of the dungeon area proper as well as a pre-area, like this one. And the music for both is awesome, of course. See, that part's really tough because you gotta block both of them, but thankfully, we got 2 hearts. Oh no, so here's the blue one. So you see, there's a steady progression, and then you get to this one, and you're just like, when do you have time at all? I should have saved the tornadoes for this one. So I think you're gonna take a hit either way. Try using the fireball. Nope. Yes! Wow, okay. I never tried that before. Okay, no. Gosh damn. It's the wandering smog. We gotta get our arrows ready. Although this one we don't need our arrows for, actually. Yeah, we can just take them out like that. Beautiful. Okay. But there are several of them here, if I recall correctly. So yeah, this won't be an in-depth sort of 100% guide to the game, because the person who I mentioned at the beginning of this video while discussing Wonder Boy in Monsterland, Skeleton Crusader, has a lot of Sega Master System playthroughs on his channel. But more than that, also has he also has, yeah, really the 2 best Wonder Boy in Monsterland and Wonder Boy 3 playthroughs on the internet, on YouTube. So very thorough, goes through everything, so I'll leave links to both in the description. I highly recommend you check it out. So the pyramid here is sort of the last part of the pre-area before the dungeon, and I just walked by it. I should point out that that right there, so a red lock, meaning that you have to use a new key each time you go to it, that is the entrance to the dungeon right there. But we're going down here first, because there is a treasure chest. Oh, and this enemy here, it's another side crawler. It's not there when you're on the other side of this wall. When you're in the pyramid, he's not there. And it's so weird, and I guess it's possible that like they forgot either to take him out from here or to put him inside of the pyramid. But yeah, I always thought that was really strange. If you have a boomerang, you can actually kill it, I think. I wonder if it drops anything special. So yeah, this guy is not pleasant. Ooh, but he does drop a lot of gold. So definitely need that before going into the dungeon. But this guy respawns, and you gotta be ready when you're leaving this room. I didn't jump fast enough. That's not good, because now we only got 1 heart. There is a hospital before the dungeon, so we gotta survive before then. But yeah, inside there was also golden blocks, so keep in mind it's a place that we're going to be returning later on. Turbo button helps the ascent of the pyramid quite nicely. Okay, so there's going to be another wandering smog down here, so we got to be careful. I couldn't remember which one it was, but that worked out quite well. So yeah, so there's a lot of hidden doors in this game, a lot of puzzles, a lot of, yeah, just really interesting and intriguing and just magical things for, you know, me as like I was 3 or 4 when we got this game. I was really young. But yeah, this is the video game that basically introduced me to video games. Even though we had stuff before the Master System, but Master System was like the first actual console. These guys shooting at us on the ceiling, call me crazy, and there are ones that are horizontally oriented later, which will make it more obvious, but I always thought that these guys look like Mr. Burns from The Simpsons. And I'm like, why is Mr. Burns shooting fireballs at us? That's not cool. So we're gonna take everything as slow as we... Oh, I forgot about you! Okay. The goblins. I don't like the goblins. Have you ever actually called fairies? Especially because they don't even drop anything, so it's a waste. They spawn right behind you, which is really annoying too. So yeah, so we got a fair bit of gold now, so I don't feel bad spending the money at the hospital if we make it there. This game also has a pretty good sense of verticality, I feel, even though it is kind of annoying going from one screen to the next, that there's very little continuous scrolling for very long. Next, please. So this one makes more sense than shopping, please. And you can see the price of it has gone up since we now have 3 hearts. But worth it in this case. So I think that's the spot where the side crawler was when we were on the other side, but again, he's not there. So you can easily miss that and then not be able to get in here and be very confused. But so again, because this is the first time we're hearing a new song, I'm gonna let you hear the first like 45 seconds of it or so. Oh, it's so good. Like, it's so good for 8-bit music. Like, it blows my mind. Like, there's some really good 8-bit music out there, but that is, yeah, top notch. So this music is called... Let me double check that. So this music is called The Monster's Lair. And the music in the pre-area is called the Danger Zone. Both quite appropriate, I think. So again, we're being introduced to the weak variants of enemies before the strong ones. So here's the red frog, I think? Can't remember what the heck they're called. Screw it, I'm grabbing my instruction manual. Which, even though is definitely better It's definitely better than no instruction manual. It is a very cheap instruction manual. It's in black and white, and it has 6 different languages in it. Which is an enormous waste of paper now that I'm thinking about it. 54 pages, and only 1/6 of it for each language on each page. That frog is called Giant Toad. Cool. It has illustrations. Wow, this is a really, notwithstanding the language thing, I really like all the illustrations for the different enemies. I'll see if I can get a photo of that or try to scan it or something. Scanning is difficult, but we shall see. See if I can find something on smspower.org. A link to which will be found in the description, because smspower.org is enormously helpful in helping me prepare. So you can see the red ones are pretty docile, whereas the green ones jumping all over the place. Yeah, smspower.org is a hugely helpful resource in helping me prepare for this series, which I wanted to have ready in time for Christmas, all of it, but I don't know if that's realistic. So hopefully it doesn't take too long, though. So again, more Mr. Burns, guys. There's a secret coming up, but I can't remember exactly where it is. I really hope that something I should mention from the Wonder Boy 2 footage is that I wasn't recording in 60 FPS, which is an enormous mistake. Well, I was trying to record it, but my friggin' capture card, Hauppauge HD PVR2 Gaming Edition, isn't very good, and has a lot of trouble with frame rates and, resolution scaling and things like that. That was close. But yeah, I think, or at least I hope this is working at 60 FPS, because that's what it outputs at. And if you record in a lower frame rate, you'll have things happening like happened with most of my Wonder Boy 2 footage, is that when the sprites are flickering, for whatever reason, iframes, or just because there's too many on the screen at once, oh shite, the character just disappears if you're recording in the wrong frame rate. So I wasn't about to go capture more Wonder Boy 2 footage after already spending way too much time on that to begin with, but hopefully this footage isn't flawed like that. So yeah, so you can see a little bit closer of Mr. Burns' face. I don't think I'm that far off, but I can almost never jump over this thing without taking damage, so let's see. Oh, I made the jump, but I got hit twice beforehand, so... Something else to mention about the music is that I can't play this song to which I'm referring here, because someone on YouTube would claim copyright over the song and then monetize this video, which is not something I allow, because none of my videos are monetized to begin with. I think that's the secret part there. So I gotta make this jump. No! Okay. No! I don't remember what was in there, but it was something really good. And the last time I played this, I made the jump so easily. But there was a secret room there that we just missed, so whatever, we're gonna have to deal with it. So here's the first real boss fight of the game. This is... Let me double check my manual. This is the Mummy Dragon, a dragon that became a mummy in a pyramid. It has the magical power of turning its enemy into a blank. I won't tell you what until it happens. Okay, here we go. I always thought that the things he spits at you look like Lucky Charms. It always made me hungry for Lucky Charms. Oh, that's a bad spot to be in. Pretty sure the pattern is random, which makes it very hard to get away from sometimes. Gosh darn it. Okay, let's hope we get a heart this time. Nope, no heart. Okay, I'm going to cut out most of the run back. So, yeah, so that you guys don't have to deal with seeing me run. And to keep the length of this playthrough a little bit shorter than it otherwise would be had I included all the run backs. So, yeah. We're gonna heal up, and then head back to the pyramid. Guess what? I also didn't equip my armor. Oh my god, look at all the extra defense we could have had. Whoopsie. The good thing about runbacks, though, is that, yeah, provides an occasion for farming. Because though you do unfortunately lose any magic weapons that you acquire when you die, you do at least get to keep the gold, so that should make our lives a fair bit easier when we need to start spending lots of gold on equipment. Okay, here we are. Yes! Yes, we made it. Yes! Wow, okay, so we have a medicine now, which means that it's kind of like Tears of Denial in a way. Except instead of always making your HP 1, it's random as to whether it will be 1, 2, or 3 hearts, or however many hearts you have. It seems more often than not that you get less than full, in other words. Oh! Should have been paying attention there. But yeah, it's definitely better than nothing. And we got almost full HP had I not gotten hit by Mr. Burns over there, but yeah. Okay, let's try this again. Mummy Dragon, here we come. Now that we have our armor actually equipped too. Gosh, I gotta stop getting caught in the corner like that. Pretty sure we could have a better weapon too, but I don't remember which one we can get at this point. So yeah, so you want to hit him 3 times and then duck. I always thought this guy looked more like a rat than a dragon, but gosh, you can never dodge the Lucky Charms. Yes! Okay, once again, want to dodge the flame, get as many coins as we can. So yeah, the Mummy Dragon special power was to turn us into Mouseman. So we are now Mouseman, who's pretty cute, and can... Remember I was pointing out the checkered blocks earlier, that we'd be able to interact with them later? This is how we interact with them as Mouseman. We can climb on them. And I think that is really cool. Might as well grab another key before we leave. And so it can be tricky knowing whether you're attached sometimes. But if you see that your guy's running on the spot, that's how you know he's attached. If he's just standing still, he's not. But if he's running on the spot, then he's attached. Oh, we should actually... So we have a bit more charm than we did as Lizard Man. So we're at 52 charm points, 63 attack points, and 44 defense points. He actually has a shield. All of the different transformations have their own best weapons and shields, which I think is pretty cool because I think it reflects, or at least is meant to reflect, the fact that, you know, a mouse would need a very different weapon than, you know, a lizard, and so on and so forth. I still don't really know how it works with the lizard thing, but okay. I should actually be paying attention here because we might very well die, so we're going to equip some magic just in case. No! This game is the greatest. So, you can see here, this is another spot we wouldn't have been able to access before becoming Mouseman. So, very clever design, I think. And this is basically our home free. Get some loot. Oh, and some charm stones too. Oh, that's beautiful. So we're up to 14, 13, and because now we have 4 charm stones, our charm raised, or should have increased. I think we're at 50 before, now we're at 56. I could be wrong about that, but we also have a shop here. Which has, so I was just talking about how Mouseman has a shield that's the best shield for him. That it's the dancing shield. So we're gonna pick that up and make sure we actually equip it this time. So our damage percentage, damage points, whatever, 77 up from 44, or 35 with the ivory shield. Beautiful. So you can see what I mean now in terms of this game making the mechanics of Wonder Boy 2 looking kind of primitive, but certainly it's an evolution of design, I think, and that the designers were especially freed by the constraints of, you know, having to make an arcade game. And I look at free-to-play games in the same way, in that, the free-to-play games of today, in that, you know, I want to play a game that's designed to be played like a game, and not a game that's designed to extract money from people. Like, you should be able to pay something upfront and play the game, but, yeah. That's a whole thing that we don't have time to get into considering how long this episode's already gone. So let's return to Monster Town. Okay, so now that we're back at Monster Town, what we could do, if we were using passwords, which we're not, we're using save states. So we're going to save in slot 1 to indicate that we finished the first dungeon, and that's the only way we're going to use save states, as we would passwords. So only when we're in a position to get a password is when we're going to use a save state. And that is right here. If, you know, again, if you were to pick up this game if you have this game at home, you could enter in this password and continue right where we're leaving off here. So I think that's pretty cool. Like, it's annoying, obviously, when you have to enter the password, but that's pretty clever, given the limitations of the time, the storage medium of cartridges. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff we can do here now, because we're Mouseman, and in various other spots too. It opens up so much more of the game, and with each transformation, it opens up more and more of the game. But we're going to leave it there for now. I unfortunately can't look at the screen and wave at you, so I'll have to come up with some other action to indicate a wave. But thank you all very much for joining me, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!